With the launch of Episode Revenant, we received a lot of changes. The one I was looking forward to the most had to be Skull of Dire Ahamkara. As you see from the gameplay, with this newly buffed build, you're going to be able to have pretty much infinite supers, but on top of that, you're also going to have infinite grenades, infinite healing, and near infinite class ability. And now that we have things like Prismatic in the game, we no longer have to only run this with Void. We can take advantage of the Prismatic kit, but don't worry, it is also still very strong on Void if you would like to run that. This video is going to dive deep into the Prismatic aspect of it, but I will touch on Void a little bit for all of you that care. There's a lot of things to learn in this video, from things that can synergize and all the way just to a lot of buffs that this build did receive. So be sure to sit back, relax, and if you all do enjoy, consider hitting that subscribe button and dropping a like. All the support really does go a long way, and I plan on putting a lot more builds out after this one, and I don't want you all to miss them. And yes, of course, I will be making stasis builds with everything going on in this season. But without further ado, let's dive deeper and explain exactly how this build is going to work. All right, starting off, the first thing we need to talk about is, of course, the Skull of Dire Ahamkara. If you don't know what this does, it has the exotic perk Actual Grandeur. Provides additional damage resistance during Nova Bomb final blows, and weapon final blows while you have Devour grant super energy. So the newly buffed part of this is the fact that they added the Devour aspect of it. Now when you have Devour, getting weapon kills is actually going to provide you with additional super energy, which is obviously very strong, but you do have to be aware you will now have to have Devour active to get super energy back with your Nova Bomb. Now that's not that big of a deal because Nova Bomb will be able to proc Devour with things like Feed the Void, so you pretty much will always have Devour proc anyway, but just be aware, make sure you always have Devour up, which you will all the time with this build anyway, but now you're also going to be able to get that additional energy from your weapons. And also as an added bonus, you do get the damage resistance while you're Nova Bomb. It's not that big of a deal. Maybe you could save yourself sometimes if you accidentally throw it against the wall, but obviously the main part of this is going to be that extra super regen. Now the topic of weapon final blows granting you super energy, what better weapon to pair with this than Bad Juju? This is absolutely crazy to pair with this build. It has the exotic perk String of Curses, so kills refill the magazine, increase damage for a short duration, and grant super energy based on the strength of String of Curses, fires full auto. And then if you do have the catalyst for this weapon, it will extend the duration of String of Curses, and it also has hipfire grip on it if you just want to hipfire the gun. So with the newly buffed Bad Juju, the String of Curses is actually going to last a little bit longer, so it makes it really easy to constantly keep this perk up, constantly granting you more super energy. The other buff to this is that the secret perk that it used to have, where if you got, I think it was around 150 kills, that would cause the Cursed Doll explosion, that just happens literally all the time now. I would say around every 2 to 3, maybe 3 to 4 kills, you spawn that Cursed Doll explosion, so it significantly increases the ad clear of this weapon. But even without the explosion, you never have to reload the gun, and you get increased damage per kill. So on its own, in its base form, just like that, it already has decent ad clear, but now you have this Cursed Doll explosion that is happening very, very frequently now. You can absolutely kill everything with this explosion, alongside also granting that super energy that we were just talking about. So between Bad Juju and Skull of Dire Ahamkara, both granting super energy on weapon kills, you can just spam your Nova Bombs like if it was a grenade ability, sometimes even faster than your grenade ability. But now let's take a look at the subclass, because this is going to play a massive part in how this can work. Obviously, we're going to have to get Devour, and as I already mentioned, we're going to be taking Feed the Void. So defeat a target with an ability to activate Devour. Your Devour effects are improved, restoring additional health and grenade energy. So any ability kill you get now is going to grant you Devour. It could be your grenade, it could be your melee, it could even be your class ability, which we'll talk about in a second. And like I said earlier, it can also be your Nova Bomb. You can then just get any kill to constantly proc Devour over and over again. You're going to get grenade energy, and since this is Feed the Void, you're going to be getting the additional grenade energy and the additional health, and this pretty much makes you unkillable. Having a gun that never has to reload while also healing you every time it gets a kill, while also granting you the super energy, you can kind of see how everything is going to synergize together extremely well. And now for the other aspect, I do like to run Weaver's Call, so activating your class ability to weave 3 threatlings and deploy any threatlings you have perched. Targets defeated by strain damage have a chance to generate perched threatlings. So what's really cool about Weaver's Call is that the threatlings that come out can actually proc Devour. So this is just the 4th way to be able to initially proc your Devour if you need to, and this will also help you build your Darkness Transcendence energy up. Now you might be asking yourself why I'm not taking Hellion, and Hellion is very strong. It is probably better than Weaver's Call, but the reason I like Weaver's Call is to get that darkness energy. You're already getting a ton of light energy from things like your Nova Bomb, even your grenade, because you can spam these all the time. So this is just great to have as a little benefit to get some darkness energy and have that devour chance if you ever need it. Now obviously we're going to be running Phoenix out with this because this does have the lowest cooldown. This just means we can spam our class ability a lot more. We can also heal with it if we're ever in a sticky situation, which is very, very nice. And we're also going to be running Arcane Needle so we can apply Unravel. If we do actually kill an enemy with the strain damage from Arcane Needle, this can also proc Weaver's Call. So there's a little synergy there as well. But mainly this is again just to help build darkness energy up while also just providing some extra damage. Now for your fragments, I am going to be running Facet of Protection. So whenever I'm surrounded, I will get damage resistance. I run this in pretty much all of my prismatic base builds. Getting the extra damage resistance is just great for survivability. Next up is going to be Facet of Grace, which is going to be extremely important. So kinetic weapon final blows will actually grant you additional transcendence energy. Obviously with Bad Juju already granting you super energy, it now is just going to provide you with additional transcendence energy. Now there is a little bug in the game right now with transcendence and Skull of Diahamkara, which I'll talk about here in a second, and I hope Bungie can fix that. Maybe they'll see this video and it'll get fixed pretty quick. But our next fragment is going to be Facet of Hope, so I'll be having elemental buff. We will get increased class ability regeneration. This is great because Devour will work with this, and now since we will have Devour all the time, constantly granting us grenade energy, it will now just further give us class ability energy, which again will obviously synergize with everything else that we were talking about. Now next up is actually going to be Facet of Purpose. So whenever we pick an orb buff, we will get a buff depending on our super. Obviously our super is going to be Nova Bomb, so we will get a Void Overshield. The Void Overshield actually got buffed in Revenant as well to provide you even more damage resistance than what it currently was doing, so you can just become even more tankier, especially pairing that with infinite healing. And then for our final fragment, I just like to run Facet of Dominance, so my Void Grenade can weaken targets. This is just great because your Vortex Grenade is going to actually be able to kill enemies now, alongside also just provides you with the additional benefit of weakening for any of your other weapons. And then with Facet of Dominance, this also makes it so your Singularity Grenade from your Transcendence also can weaken enemies because this does void damage as well. And getting grenade kills is obviously very beneficial because you're going to be able to proc Devour from it, and it will even play into some of our armor mods. Now really quick, I do want to make a little PSA. I have tested this and it does seem to be a little bug right now between Transcendence and Skull of Diahamkara. If you have Transcendence active, you seem to don't get the super energy from Skull of Diahamkara. I really hope Bungie can see this video and try to fix this as soon as possible, because it does suck, because as you've seen in the gameplay, you can get your Transcendence extremely quick with Grace and things like Bad Juju paired together. So it would be great to obviously be able to, you know, get the super energy that you're supposed to get. But from my play testing, it does seem to be a little buggy right now. I just want to make everyone aware right now. If you are watching this in the future though, and it is fixed, I will update the description of this video to say that this is finally fixed. Now, like I said in the beginning, I do want to talk about Void really quick, because this still does work extremely well, because obviously you still have access to Nova Bomb, you still have access to Feed the Void. The benefit of running Void Walker is the fact that you can actually buff your Vortex Grenade up a lot with things like Chaos Accelerant, or you could also take Child of the Old Gods, but I think if you're playing a Child of the Old Gods base build, it's probably better to take something like Briar Binds, so that's why I would opt in just to buff your grenade. You also have things like Echo of Explosion, so whenever you get Void ability final blows, you'll cause enemies to explode, so basically you can make the Nova Bomb explode more, or even the grenade. And then you can also take things like Remnants to make the Vortex last longer, Undermining to weaken your grenades, which obviously that's also on Prismatic. And that's why overall I think Prismatic is just kind of better, because what we already have here is just on Prismatic. Obviously you can buff your grenade, but I would argue that the Prismatic grenade is the better buff grenade. The only thing you don't really have is the fact that you can make enemies explode and the grenade lasts a little longer, but you can spam so many grenades anyway, it doesn't really matter too much if the grenade lasts longer. So just being able to have Transcendence to spam everything and do more damage, I think it's way more beneficial, and that's why I would highly recommend running Prismatic with this. But if you do want to stick to the classic Void Walker, I totally get it, and it will still work just fine. And hey, even Vortex honestly might work pretty well with Skull of Diahamkara. I do think Cataclysm is probably going to be the best option though. But now let's take a look at the artifact perks, and honestly, I can go on and say none of these artifact perks matter at all for this build. And that's kind of a good and a bad thing. The good thing is you can literally run this build in any season, any episode you want to. It'll just be solid. The bad thing is that there actually are some Void artifact perks which you can't really take advantage of. Things like Supernova, it's based on doing Void damage, which we're not really doing. I guess if you want to take a Void special, you could take advantage of it, but you don't really have to. And then Power for Pain will grant you Devour, but again, you already can get Devour from your subclass. You don't really need that either. So literally none of these matter. So if I had to recommend anything, I would just recommend taking the finisher mods, just so you get finisher bonuses. And then obviously also playing into the grenade launcher based mods is going to be very strong for doing DPS, because as of right now, this is probably going to be the DPS meta, something like Edge Transit or just any bait and switch grenade launcher. Also, I'm not going to make a weapon section build because the only main weapon you need to run is Bad Juju. The other stuff is literally up to you, but I will make a little honorable note for all of you that made it this far in the video. Any grenade launcher with disruption break is very, very strong. If you get an empty vessel here with like auto loading disruption break, you can then pair that with things like concussive reload. So you break an enemy's shield, you will apply weaken to them, and then on top of that, you also get an increased kinetic damage, and then your Bad Juju can just absolutely shred that target. It's very, very nice. Pairing that with disorienting grenades to also blind that target, you just destroy them. Now for the stat distribution, definitely go into 100 resilience to get that 30% damage reduction. I would then opt in to 100 discipline. I know you have Devour, but this is just going to make sure you're able to get that grenade back a lot faster. It is very important to have your grenade up in this build to apply weaken, to proc Devour, to even play into armor mod. So this is going to be very beneficial. I would then opt in just to take as much recovery as you can. Again, this will play into some armor mods, which we'll get in here to just a second. And then for anything left over, things like strength and even intellect, I guess, is okay with this setup, but you don't really need intellect because the gun and the helmet itself is already going to grant you so much as it is. The timer really doesn't matter here. But now getting into armor mods, this is what I'm running if you like to copy it down. Starting off with the helmet though, we're going to be running a kinetic siphon so we can make orbs when we're getting rapid kills with our Bad Juju. Orbs are going to grant you even more super energy, which is nice, but it also will play into armor charge. Next up is going to be ashes to assets, so we gain bonus super energy on grenade kills. Since we can spam our grenade all the time, ashes to assets is a very, very strong option to take in this. Like I was just saying, you want to throw your grenades all the time to constantly grant you those benefits we were mentioning. The next up is going to be dynamo, so whenever we use our class ability near enemies, we'll get super energy, so we're going to be able to spam our class ability a lot with everything else that we were going over. So this is just a nice little benefit to get that extra chunk of super, and then pairing that again with Bad Juju and Skull itself, it is just disgusting the amount of super energy you get. Now next up, I'm going to be running a momentum transfer and a bolstering detonation. So these basically just make it so whenever I deal damage with my grenade, I'm going to get melee energy and class ability energy. This just helps out with spam things. And then on top of that, I like running firepower, so I make an orb of power whenever I get a grenade kill. This does have a pretty hefty cooldown, but you don't really need to take things like kinetic loader because you don't ever have to reload Bad Juju. If you want to take something that is, you know, I guess attuned to whatever heavy you're running, you know, you could take a reloader for that. It's definitely interchangeable. It's whatever you want to run. You could even take a grenade kickstart, but you don't really need to, for the fact that Devour is going to get your grenade back extremely quick. So that's why I'm just opting to run a firepower, but it is definitely interchangeable. Now for your chest piece, always go through resistant mods. Just always swap this out for whatever, you know, damage type enemies are doing and the content you're doing. And then for the boots, I do like to run an insulation, an absolution, and an orbs of restoration. Now the reason I like to run these is because again, we're already getting a ton of grenade energy. So insulation will just grant you additional class ability, and again, the class ability is going to be great because it can help proc things like Devour with Weaver's Call alongside granting you the super energy. Absolution just gives you cooldown for everything. This stacked insulation is going to give you a hefty chunk of your class ability. And then Orbs of Restoration just gives you energy for whatever your lowest cooldown is. If you want to swap this out for something else, you could. Even maybe taking something like Recuperation is nice. I know you have Devour, but this is just an extra form of survivability. So if you want to swap this out and then pairing that with a Facet of Purpose to get the Overshield, you're pretty much going to be unkillable. It's actually kind of gross. And then finally for the class item, I do like to take a Bomber so I get grenade energy whenever I use my class ability. Again, we can spam the class ability a lot with this setup, so this is just some extra energy to provide even more energy for everything else. Now I also like to take a powerful attraction so I can collect all the orbs around me whenever I use my class ability. Again, as I've said many times in this video, we can spam the class ability, so this is great. And to help further spam the class ability, I do like to take a utility kickstart, so this will actually consume all the armor charge we're getting from the orbs, and it will grant us class ability back the moment our cooldown goes away. This just really helps the flow of this build, and it's what allows you to get your near infinite class ability, again, alongside your infinite grenades and super. And then for the final part of the build, we can't skip out on it. This is the Transmog I'm running. I took advantage of the Hateful Wish ornament. It kind of makes it look like Obsidian Mon. That's obviously the whole vibes we were going for here, is to try to make this as good as Obsidian Mon was back in D1. And I took advantage of some of the new ornaments from this episode, and then some just older Halloween based things. I think it actually turned out looking pretty cool. I have the Void Bond on just to, you know, solidify that we're being a Void Lord out here. But of course, underneath that Void, we do have all Super Black on to really hone in on that Obsidian Mon back in D1. And overall, I think it turned out looking pretty pretty sick. And if you want to make your warlock look like this, definitely be sure to copy it down. But all right, that is going to do it all for me. I really hope you all enjoyed the first build of episode Revenant. There are going to be a lot more to come. I still have to get the Stasis exotic chest piece. I still want to make a Stasis build based on all the artifact perks, but I was very, very excited about this one, and I'm so happy it turned out to be as strong as it actually is. But of course, as always, let me know what you all think about this build in the comments below. Have you ran something like this before? Are you going to give it a try now? I don't think this is going to be the brand new game-breaking meta warlock build by any means, but if you want to switch things up and try something new, I would definitely give this one a shot. Anyways, though, I wish you all the best of luck of putting this build together for yourself. I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you all have a great day. Peace.